What is up, nerds? We've got competitive games, we've got cooperative games.
Put your hands together.
So what we've got coming to Kickstarter from Daily Magic Games is Valeria Card Kingdom Darksworn. And this is an expansion that takes this awesome game and turns it into a fully cooperative experience. So instead of battling out and you're, building out your tableau to fight monsters and buy domains to get the most victory points at the end of the game, you are now all working together through these different stories in what is essentially a very narrative campaign. And now, campaign may scare some people off because of the time it takes and the investment, but this definitely is a campaign that you can, pick any story out of the middle and play it with a group. It's not going to be like Gloomhaven where you have to have the same party that meets together every single time. People can pop in and out at will. You can just pick book 3, pick book 5, and go straight from there. That is perfectly fine. But before we get into all that, let's look at what changes from the standard Valeria games into Darksworn. Now at baseline, you're going to see a lot of similarities. You still have your row of monsters, you still have your 10 different citizens that you're going to be choosing from, and the actual turns look very similar, where you are going to be rolling these 2 dice. You are going to activate the citizens in your tableau. For each of the dice, plus the number of the dice added together, you have, when it's not your turn, you still activate based on those dice. And you are still gaining the coins, the magic, and the damage. Now, the first change in components, which isn't really a mechanical change, but is that instead of just collecting all these tokens and having the little multipliers that you add onto there, you are actually each going to have one of these boards. And I actually really appreciate these. And these are tracks that you'll have one of the resource move up and down on to track how many of that resource you have, which really does help keep your table cleaner, especially since you have a decent amount of new stuff on the board. That extra little bit of cleanliness on your table does really help, especially if you're playing with a large player count, because this plays up to 5 players, I believe, straight out of the box. So having these boards does help, the resources pass around. You're not running out of resources as often. It keeps everything a lot cleaner. And honestly, when you're spending bigger ticket items, so when you're spending 12 tokens at once, it does make it a lot more simple just to go and count down this board rather than try to count out that many of that and then put it back in the pile. It's cleaner and it's more efficient. And then you do have the multipliers of 10 plus for when you get to the end of that board. You'll start over just with that little 10 plus tucked right into there at the end of it. I think that this is an addition that I'm going to use even when I'm not playing with Darksworn. Just regular Valeria, I'm going to recommend that you use these boards to keep track of your resources. Hey guys, so one quick note. These resource trackers are actually not a part of the Darksworn expansion. They are for the Valeria Card Kingdom 2nd Edition. Now, if you already have 1st Edition and you don't want to upgrade to 2nd Edition, they are going to make these available as an add-on in the Kickstarter campaign. So whether you are upgrading everything to 2nd Edition or if you're just getting the new stuff, I definitely recommend you pick up these resource trackers because they're awesome. And they're also going to have all the expansions, extra dice, a neoprene playmat, all kinds of cool add-ons in the Kickstarter campaign. One more reason to back it on Kickstarter. Now, you may have noticed that victory points are on this track as well. And in the standard game, you do have victory point tokens because every once in a while, you are going to actually gain that token when you make a choice in the game where you get victory points. Now you're going to track all of your victory points as the game progresses. So as you're fighting monsters, as you're making that choice when you fight monsters to get victory points instead of other resources, you're going to track all of those victory points on this track as well. And that is because instead of being a way to win the game, victory points are now another currency in this game. And that's what this board is down here. And right now, it's instead of having domains, you have this board. And these are the blessings of Aquila. I'm not sure what the deity, how to pronounce the deity in this universe, but basically the blessings of the deity. And these are places for you to spend victory points to get a bonus. So the example we have here is spend 4 victory points to return 2 citizens, or spend 2 victory points to get 5 coins. There's some to like spend victory points to modify your dice to rebuild these walls, which we'll get to in a second. But this does create a whole new resource in the game without like changing the whole game, which I thought was really, really cool. Now, the next big change is that instead of having your stacks of monsters here where you're fighting through like the different places, like you've got the plains and the forests, and like they get like harder and harder as you work your way down the stack. Now you have a communal monster deck that deals out monsters randomly. So you could have a bunch of easy monsters on the board, you could have a bunch of hard monsters on the board, and then when you work your way through the stack, you shuffle it up and deal them all out again. And that is because there actually is a monster phase in the game now. After you've rolled your dice, you've had your harvest, you've done your actions, then the monsters get to attack. And the monsters that attack are the same numbers of the dice that you rolled. So each of these monster like columns is numbered, and then this board up here has a number on it as well. We're getting our way there. But the number that you rolled is going to activate monsters who are going to then attack the column that they are in. And now there are these wall tokens that are going to prevent the monsters from actually attacking you. So you have your regular wall, and when it gets hit, it gets flipped over to a damaged wall. When that gets hit, it goes away. And now the monsters are attacking your actual citizens. It's almost reminiscent of like Castle Panic, where like the monsters like bounce off the walls and then break the walls down, and then they can get through. And when they attack your citizens, they're actually going to like take them hostage and hold them off in this spot over here from the game. And one of the ways that you lose is if an entire column of citizens runs out and then they get attacked again. So if you do have 2 slots that get completely, well, it's not really called exhausted in this game, it's just empty. But if you get 2 columns that are 2 slots that are empty in the same column and the monster attacks, you just straight up all lose the game. And that's where the co-op nature comes in. And this also does change some things in how you purchase as well, because in the standard game, like one of the ways that the game ends is if a certain number of these piles becomes exhausted, meaning there's none left. But there's like a mad dash to get, like, I really like the 4s that are archers. So when I'm playing, I'm just going to pump a bunch of money into archers and get tons and tons and tons of attack to get victory points fighting up in these monsters. But when you're working with the Darksworn co-op game, you don't want to just like bum and buy out a whole row, because not only do you all have to share these because you are playing a fully cooperative team game, if you buy them all out, then the monsters attack, you are that much closer to losing the game. So it definitely changes like a lot of these strategies on how you want to build out your rows. Continuing to move up the board here, we have like the storyboard. And this is where you actually have the book that you're playing in, where you have the narrative campaign experience. Now, in this Kickstarter preview, I got to try out the first 3 books of the Darksworn saga, which I have book 1 set up here, and books 2 and 3 are off to the side. And these tell a continuous story that your adventurers are on. And I'm really not going to get into the minutia of the stories. I'm not going to tell a lot of the narrative or really what changes in these stories, because I do think that the discovery of the story is what a lot of people are going to like about this game. Because if you do have a group that meets consistently, that likes narrative games, their narrativeness is really cool, because what you discover as you're working your way through this deck fits in with the story. So the premise of it is you're a group of adventurers, you are going out on a quest, and you're going to read your story until you come to an obstacle. And maybe this is a monster to fight. Maybe this is some kind of like natural phenomenon in your terrain, or magical phenomenon in the terrain, or maybe it's something that you are building or something that you are working to. So it's not always like a monster to fight. So you'll read up until you get to that objective, or until you get to that barrier, and then you'll have the card there where you continue playing the game, where now you have this thing to complete. And you have to like complete a mission based on the number of players at the table. So it's not that everyone at the table has to do it, but if you're playing with 4 people, then you have to complete that objective 4 times. So you can try to like build out teams where like, okay, you're going to be really, really good at fighting. You're going to be really, really good at money. And part of how you can do that is you do get to share resources in this game. And it's not just a straight 1-to-1 trade. It's a 2-to-1 trade. So I can give up 6 of my magic for you to gain 3 magic, which isn't something that I'm going to recommend you do a lot because resources still are limited. So like you're not just going to be like, I just got so much magic, I don't even care. But you are going to have like really pivotal points in the game where you're desperate to fight this guy. You're desperate. If we don't kill this monster right now, we lose. So we're all going to sacrifice a lot of our attack to give it to you just that you can fight it off so we don't lose the game. But I digress. There is a really nice story that you're working through. The game, it's not like revolutionary changes, but there definitely are rule changes as the story goes on. There are things that are different. There are ways to block things. There are different monsters that you encounter that do have an influence on how the rest of that round plays out. And there are some things that carry on to the next game in the narrative. So something that you may gain in the story, you hold on to in the next game. And now again, that is something that even if you gain something in book 2 that you carry on to book 3, if you just pull book 3 out, you will be able to just say, oh, at the end of that game, we gained this thing. Because it's not unique where you get to choose which one of these things do you want to keep, or you had 7, so you get to have 7 when you play the next game. But there are things that unlock as abilities, I guess you could say, that unlock as the game progresses that will carry throughout the game. So again, if you're playing it with that narrative experience, you're going to get that reward of okay, well, the game has evolved as we've unlocked these things. So guys, if you are a fan of the Valeria Card Kingdom, which I really think you should be, I think this is an excellent game. If you haven't seen our review of it already, I'll throw a card up where you can watch it, but really do love this game. I really do think that this is now a game for everyone because this expansion takes what is an amazing game and turns it into what is going to be an amazing co-op game. And now you have the choice, depending on who you're playing with, what your group likes and the skill level of your group of, do you want to play a competitive or do you want to play a co-op game? I really do think this game is a no-brainer for pretty much every single game collection out there. In addition to the Darksworn campaign, this Kickstarter is going to give you the option to catch up on everything Valeria Card Kingdom, the older expansions, the original base game. Go ahead if you don't have it. This is the time. Just go all in, buy it all. I really don't think you're going to be disappointed, guys. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's going to be a link to the Kickstarter campaign in the description box down below. Definitely go ahead and click that link. Head on over to the Kickstarter page. Again, just go all in because I really you're not going to be disappointed with this game. If you're already on Kickstarter, well, you're already there, you're already interested, just go ahead, take the jump, back it. As long as we're talking about links, we're going to have a link to Game Toppers in our description box as well. They've got a Kickstarter coming up soon as well. So if you are looking to get a table as cool as ours, with the card holders, the interchangeable playmats, it breaks down for easy transport or storage, turn any table into a gaming table. Now's your chance. Check out that link, get ready for their Kickstarter, and either way, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.